Daraka, can you talk to us about some of your priorities? But I also want to make sure that we all understand you have the same position, that whoever is our next chair, we're all going to rally behind and support and continue our party efforts.
Yeah, I've been doing the same thing for 15 years. I'm going to continue to do it, which is to build the party. And any opportunity or chance I get to do that, I will continue that. So my platform is also available on my website, darakaforcdpchair.com. It's pretty extensive, goes into a whole bunch of specifics about reform and program, but it's really themed around three things. The first is reform. And of course, first and foremost, that has to be about reforming both our culture and structure. Now, I really learned firsthand how inadequate our structures were when a number of people came to me with credible allegations of really horrific and heartbreaking abuse by Chairman Bauman. And I had before me really only one option, and that was to file public charges against him that he could publicly refute, and then we would have a vote about whether he should remain chair at E-Board with like 300 people. So you had survivors reckoning with the fact that they would have to possibly convince 300 politicos of the truth of their statement, et cetera. It's also not a system, obviously, that affords people any kind of due process, right? So we need to change those structures. I've got several proposals about how to do that, including hiring a full-time and independent ombudsperson in the office, making every delegate sign a code of conduct so that we have a baseline to hold people accountable to. And the reason I think that's important is that we've been talking a lot, and it's good that we're talking a lot about bullying and intimidation that goes sort of top to bottom in this organization, from the powerful, from elected officials, from people who are in a position to hire or not hire people. But there's also a lot of toxicity and harassment and just mistreatment that goes on among activists that drives a lot of people away from finding a political home here in the Democratic Party. We have to address that, and we have to hold one another accountable to that kind of behavior. And then the other piece of reform is, as I mentioned, right, every 5-6 years, there's been an influx of progressive activists, new activists into this party that have demanded change. And the trajectory has been, over decades, to open this party up, to make it more bottom up, to make the more democratic spaces in it more powerful, right? And I'm happy and proud to have been a part of that reform effort, but we need to continue that. For example, there are thousands and thousands of people in this state who share our values, who would love to be leaders in this party, but who are not able to, who are not allowed to, because they're not registered voters. And they're not registered voters because they can't be, because they're not citizens, or they're not 18, or they're still under the thumb of the criminal justice system. We should change all of the rules in our party bylaws, and if necessary, change the election code to make sure that you can be a party officer, that you can serve as a delegate if you are an immigrant, or if there are other reasons why you're not eligible to vote. So that's one concrete example, but there's a lot more of specific reforms I'd like to make. So the first piece is reform. The second is advocacy, because here's the thing, we're here for issues, right? Now, it may have been a particular candidate that got us engaged, whether that was Adlai Stevenson or Howard Dean or Barack Obama or Bernie Sanders, whoever it was, there might have been a candidate. But at the end of the day, the reason we stick around is that we want to make this planet more sustainable. We want to make our society more just. And so we need to be able to retool. And I have a plan for changing the way that our staffing works, the way that our funding works. We need to retool in between elections into an advocacy organization. We need to be knocking on doors year-round, not just about candidates, but about the bills that we've endorsed in order to encourage and pressure and demand that our elected officials follow through and actually make our platform law and not just a piece of paper that gathers dust in a party office. So advocacy is the second main priority for my administration. And the last one is organizing. I will be the organizer-in-chief when it comes to my style of being a leader of this party. It's how I was as a county chair. It's how I will be as state party chair. And to me, organizing has a really, really huge sense of urgency since we have the primary election coming up like basically tomorrow. It's like just right around the corner. And though it was so exciting to go all over this state, including in Orange County, but all the way up into Ventura, up into Northern California, and seeing these tremendous coalitional efforts behind flipping House seats. It was also heartbreaking, though, to see in so many of those field offices that if there was anything about local candidates, it was like a door hanger kind of languishing at the welcome desk. If I'm chair, that shit will stop. Every one of our coordinated campaigns has to be about a top-to-bottom effort to elect Democrats and hold them accountable at every level of government. That's the value added that we have as a party. That's what makes us different from any other, from a candidate campaign or Indivisible or any of these other groups, is that we work at every single level to both elect Democrats and hold them accountable. So those are my political priorities. They're all honed in the trenches, in grassroots organizing, and I look forward to being able to put them into practice as your chair.
Thank you. Kimberly, I've got a quick question for you. We've heard what Daraka's first priority would be in office. What would be yours? And then also if you have any response to Daraka's answer.
Yeah. So my number one priority, and for those of you who haven't had a chance to check out the website, I would encourage you to do so. Voteforkimberly.org, FOR, voteforkimberly.org. We have laid out the plan, our priorities, and our platform. I have 4 priorities. Number one is to address directly and squarely the culture change that we need to bring about in this party. I believe that we really cannot move forward as a party until we do that. There are real victims who suffered abuse and harm. We need to ensure that those victims are made whole to the extent that we are able to. We need to ensure that we are putting systems and processes in place to ensure that that kind of abuse never again happens in the name of the Democratic Party. To pretend like this didn't happen, to pretend like there is not a culture of bullying and harassing and retaliation is setting us up for failure in 2020. Let's be very clear. There are real legal and financial implications that this party is about to face. I believe that the best way to do that is by addressing that. What this party needs right now is a turnaround executive, someone who can come in, help us to deal with the issues that we have facing us. Our brand and our reputation as Democrats have taken a hit. We need to know that. And also someone who can help to right the ship, to weather the storm, and to get us on the other side of 2020. So first and foremost, priority number one, dealing with the culture change that needs to be brought about. Having a chair who has the courage of her convictions, who will stand up and speak out and set the tone, the tenor, and the direction for how we are expected to behave as delegates to this party. Priority number two is ensuring that the electoral victories that we had in 2018, many of which were right down here, thank you to all of the on-the-ground organizing groups that worked in conjunction and collaboration with the local party to actually deliver those wins. Holding on to those seats in 2020 is priority number two, not just because we need to maintain the House, but because we need to get ready for the census as well. So priority number three is getting ready to welcome a presidential primary unlike any we have seen in at least a generation. Now that we've moved up our primary to March, it's important that California Democratic Party have its house in order. A big part of having its house in order is ensuring that we have a chair who will ensure that there is a level playing field for all of our candidates. That means having a chair who will take the lessons that we learned in 2016 and ensure that there is no favoritism, that we are not moving the ball, that every candidate and contender that comes through the state of California will be treated fairly. They will have an equal opportunity to advocate and speak to our voters, and having a chair that is neutral and objective is incredibly important. I have pledged that I will not be endorsing any presidential candidates before our primary. The people must have faith must have faith that the next chair of this party is ensuring a level playing field for all of our candidates. And then finally, priority number 4 is ensuring that we do everything we can here in California to take back the White House. We are the 5th largest economy in the world. We have a lot of heft, a lot of might, and a lot of muscle in this state. And it's time for us to harness that, harness people, time, and money to help flip the states like Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida to take back the White House in 2020. Those are my 4 priorities. As the next chair of this party, I look forward to getting us through 2020 in one piece, ensuring that along this next 18 months, that we are keeping the tone and the vibration of this conversation high, not waiting until the other side of the primary when we're all bloodied and bruised, but reminding people to stay focused and positive on their candidate, to talk about the values that their candidate is espousing, as opposed to tearing other candidates down. So I'm excited about what lies ahead and the opportunities afforded this party right now, and looking forward again to continuing this conversation.